Hi guys, this is your girl Wakeji Kamore and welcome to Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. We are currently going through the book of 1 Samuel, chapter by chapter. It will be nice for you to listen to the end because I'll be sharing the key takeouts from the chapter which we'll be reading today at the end of this recording. Also, remember to subscribe, to share this with someone else, and to click the notification bell so that you never miss any new recordings. We're in the book of 1 Samuel, and today we're going to be covering chapter 24, which I'll be reading from the NLT version. So kindly follow through the story and listen to the key takeouts at the end. And also maybe just comment and share your key takeouts as well. All right, so how far have we gone so far? David is still fighting and not fighting, like running away from Saul. And that's just where we are at. All right, so let's read and see what happens in this chapter. After Saul returned from fighting the Philistines, he was told that David had gone into the wilderness of En-gedi. So Saul chose 3,000 elite troops from all the Israel who went to search for David and his men near the rocks of the wild goats. Let me just pause there. So you guys remember in the last chapter, Saul was so determined to kill David, so he had actually followed him, and they were like on opposite mountains. But when he was on that mountain, someone came with a message that the Philistines were raiding the Israelites. So Saul abandoned his search for David and went to fight the Philistines. So this is what we are talking about, that he has come back from fighting the Philistines, and now he has heard that David has gone into the wilderness of En-gedi. And so Saul has chosen 3,000 elite troops from Israel, and they have gone to search for David and his men. Like, this is all Saul lives for. He lives for looking for David because he wants to kill him. All right. So at that place where the road passes some sheepfolds, Saul went into a cave to relieve himself. But as it happened, David and his men were hiding further back in that very cave. So Saul and David are now in the same cave. So Saul has gone to relieve himself, as men do. And now they're in the same cave with David and his men. Now is your opportunity, David's men whispered to him. Today the Lord is telling you, I will certainly put your enemy into your power, to do with you as you wish. So David crept forward and cut a piece of the hem of Saul's robe. So remember that they're in the same cave. Saul doesn't know that David and his men are in this cave, but now David has seen Saul. So he has nyameleaed him and cut a piece of his robe. But then David's conscience began bothering him because he had cut Saul's robe. He said to this man, the Lord forbid that I should do this to my Lord the king. I shouldn't attack the Lord's anointed one, for the Lord himself has chosen him. So David restrained his men and did not let them kill Saul. Then all these things are happening and Saul is not even aware that they're happening. Like, even him, he's not like such a good soldier. Why is he like in such abandonment even as he's relieving himself? That, his robe is being cut. David is telling his men not to kill him. And he's not even aware that this is happening. Anyway, after Saul had left the cave and gone on his way, David came out and shouted after him, my Lord the king. And when Saul looked around, David bowed low before him. Then he shouted to Saul, why do you listen to the people who say that I'm trying to harm you? This very day you can see with your own eyes that it is not true. For the Lord placed you at my mercy back there in the cave. Some of my men told me to kill you, but I spared you. For I said I will never harm the king. He is the Lord's anointed one. Look, my father, remember that Saul is still David's father-in-law. My father, look at what I have in my hand. It is a piece of the hem of your robe. I cut it off, but I didn't kill you. This proves that I'm not trying to harm you and that I have not sinned against you, even though you have been hunting for me to kill me. May the Lord judge between us. Perhaps the Lord will punish you for what you are trying to do to me, but I will never harm you. As the old proverb says, from evil people comes evil deeds. So you can be sure that I will never harm you. Who is the king of Israel trying to catch anyway? Should he spend his time chasing one who is as worthless as a dead dog or a single flea? May the Lord therefore judge which of us is right and punish the guilty one. He is my advocate, and he will rescue me from your power. When David had finished speaking, Saul came back. Is that really you, my son David? Then he began to cry. And he said to David, you are a better man than I am, for you have repaid me good for evil. Yes, you have been amazingly kind to me today. For when the Lord put me in a place where you could have killed me, you didn't do it. Who else would let his enemy get away when he had him in his power? May the Lord reward you well for your kindness you have shown me today. And now I realize that you are surely going to be king. Finally, he has recognized this. And the kingdom of Israel will flourish under your rule. Now swear to me by the Lord that when that happens, you will not kill my family and destroy my line of descendants. So David promised this to Saul with an oath. Then Saul went home, but David and his men went back to their stronghold. Oh my goodness. If this was a scene in the movie, we would all be so upset with our hero for not killing the villain. Like in this chapter, David gets a golden opportunity to end the life of Saul, the man who had turned against David and has turned David into a man on the run, always afraid for his life. Yet David refused to take the life of the one God had placed on the throne. You see, God had anointed David to be Israel's future king. But that did not mean that he could engage in behavior that endangered the man that God has placed on the throne before him. Rather than take this kingdom by force, David needed to be patient. He seemed to understand that God would move him into that role in his own timing. Just as the Lord had placed Saul there, David did not need to take matters into his own hands to accomplish God's will. When you sense a strong calling on your life, and you sense that your life needs to move in a particular direction, you may also be tempted to justify any action that will accomplish that calling. But of this, you can be certain that God will never ask you to break his commands or to go against his will in order to accomplish his purpose. God will not be like, no, you need to kill this guy so that you can become king. God is not like that. He will not go against his command and his will just to accomplish his purpose. God's will doesn't have to be forced. It doesn't depend upon deception, manipulation, or abuse to bring about his purpose. God doesn't depend on manipulation and on killing and on abuse and on deception just to bring about his purpose. He doesn't need you to be cunning and crafty so that you can achieve the purpose that he has put upon you. So let's look back and see if there are any instances in our lives where we lacked the patience and took matters in our own hands. Or are you currently in a space where you need to trust God's timing and exercise patience? You're just like, but God promised me this. Why is it not happening now? Can I just do something to quicken this promise and this purpose? Can I be crafty and cunning and manipulative and whatever? No, God doesn't need you to do all that. The story of David sparing Saul's life is a challenge to exercise patience, to not try to get the will of God through going against his commands, and a reminder that God will work out his will in his own time. He promised, and with his own hand, he will deliver it. This is your girl, Wakeji Kamore, and this has been Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. See you tomorrow.